Hi, Nick Collier here, and this is my shop. Come join me. We'll have some fun. Well, Nick Collier here again, and it turns out that this crusher project's not going to be a full-on project because my customer called me the other day and said, well, I really don't want you to put that on the internet. And so she and I talked back and forth, and I can do parts of it, especially the jig making. And I can do segments of it, but I can't do the full-on construction and finish of it. So we're just going to hit it piecemeal here. Other than that, everything's good. I got a new project coming down the line that's going to be pretty exciting whenever it shows up. Hey, we'll see you in the rest of the shop. Well, there's this one little ring that I have to make here for the bearing to slide inside. It's like an extra bearing seat because, of course, the metal is not thick enough. So what we're going to do is we have some DOM, and then we cut it to length, which is about 1/4 inch. And then we'll bore it out. Well, then we weld it into place, then bore it out. All right, well, I've made this little spacer to go in here because we've got to bring this little 1/4 inch ring out, right out to the outside edge so I can machine it. So we got the spacer, and I made that about a year ago. So what we need to do is we need to surface this, just a rough surface, so we just want to make sure it's square, and then we're going to put, and I'll show you one of the ones I've already done, and then we're going to put a chamfer in here so that when I get ready to weld this, the weld has some place to go rather than just sit out on the edge there. And then we flip it around and we do a finish face on this edge here, or this surface here, because this is what's going to show, and you want what's going to show to look the nicest. Now it's going to get painted, but if it had a bunch of scratch marks from the saw, it wouldn't look all that good. So we want to have a nice finish. All right, so turns out that this DOM is much thicker than the last stuff I used, so I've got to bore this out. And I think what I want to do is bore it out before I put it in the mill and just rough it out, get it within about 10-15 thousandths of where I want to go, and that way when I put it in the mill, the boring head can be set at one position, and I just slam them in there and bore them. So that's the next step, of course. We're still on this step for right now. Alright, so while we're waiting for that paint to dry, we're going to take these little rings and bore them out to within 20 thousandths of the final number. Now the reason why I'm doing that is because I'm going to weld this onto a plate, and it's going to throw that center diameter off just from, I'm going to put 2 welds on it, like about right there, and it'll suck that in a little bit. So that last 20, I'll come in with a boring bar on the mill and just kiss it and square it up, and we'll be set. But for right now, we're going to probably take about, oh, I don't know, 60, 80 thousandths off. Well, it might even be 100 thousandths. So we'll go to I'm going to try to do it in one cut, but I got to take a measurement and make sure I'm going to be okay. Alright, well, after doing maybe 30 of these out of the 62, I finally got a rhythm going. And the rhythm is I just take one cut, one full cut all the way in, and then you'll see from here how I work it out. Alright, well, next thing we have to do is weld together all 4 of these components. And I welded one, but what happens is every time I make this, it comes out slightly off. And we can put it here and you can see how it rocks. And I want to get all of that out of there so that this whole thing bolts up nice and smooth. And the way I've done it, or the way I'm gonna do it, is I've cut a couple of pieces, and we're gonna make some walls like that. Then we'll be able to drop this into the center of that. And then I believe what I'm gonna do is drill some holes in this and put pins through the holes, through this across to here and across to there, and that way I've got a good solid base to work from. And all of this up here, these welds can go wherever they end up going, and I can push and shove them around, and the holes will stay even. So we're going to take, we've already prepped the metal, so we're going to take it over to the welding bench, and probably just throw a couple of beads on the inside of this. Oh, wait a second. No, that's going to hit. Yeah. Well, I could see we could put a couple of beads right about here where this isn't going to hit. So maybe we should mark that. So it'll be about right there to about right there. And then, yeah, we could probably come in at the very end and just weld this little nib right there. Either that, or we could bring it up a little higher and put our weld in right there. That might actually be better. So we're going to go over and get some bare metal on both sides here, and then let's go over to the welding bench. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to get these in here, and I realize that I want to get them in here pretty straight, not pretty perpendicular to the surface. So well, first I started with a piece of square stock that I was going to square off the ends and put it in here and get these surfaces squared up. But then I happened to spot this piece here, and that's going to give me a much squarer surface and allow me to keep everything really from getting kind of tweaked out. So I think we're going to take this over to the saw. We're going to saw that section off. We're going to come back and we're going to square up this surface and on both sides and get it to the right length, and then be able to clamp our walls to it and then weld it. So we'll be back. All right, let's square up that face. Another pass, because it didn't quite catch down there. There it goes. Yeah, nice and square. Okay, flip it around. Do the same thing on this side. Except this side we want to measure. So we're at 3,510. And it looks like we got about 1/8 of an inch to pull off of that. Right at 10. 3,510. Okay. Let's see how that works. Bring these two guys up, and I think we're sitting at exactly 90 degrees. I'm not feeling any slop in there. That's pretty good. Yeah, look at that. We can actually pick it up. So now we can bring this up to about halfway and throw a bead in out there. And that's much better. We'll go. this thing got cocked a little bit, and now it's out of square. It is what it is. We'll take it over to the anvil and see if we can straighten it up a bit. Yeah, that's better. Not perfect, but better. That's good. That's good. We may actually save it. There it is. Let's see if this thing drops in there. And it does. Let's see how this thing drops in. Couldn't ask for better. Not bad. Okay, so now we're going to take and we're going to drill or set our holes and drill them all the way through on the mill, and that way we got a perfectly straight surface. Now before we do that, we've got to come in and flatten this whole area here because of all the welds, but I think we can just do that on the grinder. All right, well, we've got our panel that we can kind of set up here. I think what we want to do is transfer this bottom surface over to here, and then we can just put the panel on top of that line and drill a hole. So let's transfer. There it is. There's our line. Pretty good. Ouch. That's pretty good. Now we'll go get a clamp. How about a little vice grip? I think that'll work just fine. Yeah. So we come in here, clamp it into place. This end needs to move just a little bit. And that ought to have it. Pretty much where we want it. And we want to make sure that we're perpendicular here. Let's bring this out. Bring you up. And get my head in the way here. Boy, that looks pretty good. And then find center. Because this is going to have to be a pretty accurate setup here. I mean, okay, maybe not that accurate, but accurate enough to where I want to be able to slide my pin in and have it locate exactly each time. Okay. And you know what? I think before I do this, I kicked this head in on another job and I never trammed it back in. So I think I should just take this whole thing apart and tram that back in. Otherwise, sure enough, it's going to be out by a few thousandths and it's going to throw me off center every time I go to use it. So we'll just take the vise and we'll move the vise down so we're working from the center of the table. There we go. Let's see if we can just knock off some top edges here. Just one or two. Okay, so we've got our table squared up, we've got our vise squared up, everybody's happy. So now what we need to do is square up our part. And so I've brought it in and I put a little spacer in there to see if we've got a nice square surface. And we do. So it's square that way. Now the question is it square this way? And how are we going to tell that? Well, we know the vise is square, so we just make sure that we're sitting right on the vise. Let's clean the vise and make sure it's totally cleaned out. All right. Oops. We got a couple of nibs sticking up here. So that's going to throw us off. Let me go grind those, and we've got just a little bit of a nib in that hole from the water jet starting the hole and coming around. So I think what I want to do is take a rat tail file and just open it up, not open it up, but just catch that nib. I mean, it's not much. Somewhere in there. Bring that in place. Put a little vice grip on this end. And a little tighter. That looks good. And that looks good. Oh, maybe just a little bit of an adjustment here. Yep. All right. Now, okay, we got a circle. Let's we'll slow it down a bit. That's about as close as we're going to get. A little bit of jumping. Let's see what we can do. Hit my zeros just in case I screw screw it up somewhere along the way. Take the coax out. Now let's figure out what our size is, because we want to be reasonably snug on that size. Three. 339. Let's go see if we can find a drill bit. 339 is an R drill. So